in quite a while. So let me get this off my chest. There was a season in the gun world where people were like coming down on people for choosing anything besides an AR-15 for home defense. And it was the most irritating it was the most irritating season in the gun world that I can think of. And everyone was just like, an article that came out of a guy, a well-respected guy, was like, you know, I train with AR-15s, so I use AR-15s for home defense. I feel it's better than shotgun. Awesome. And then it became like the thing to choose AR-15 over shotgun. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then you had people who were like coming down on people for choosing another gun as their home defense. You know, like, so now you're gonna tell this guy he's an idiot, and like they're acting like you're gonna die and get shot in your face if you choose a shotgun or some handgun or whatever as your home defense. Like they were really acting like that. And that was irritating because people tend to think that bad guys, people's outlook on bad guys, like how they envision how bad guys think, is controlled by movies. In movies, the bad guy breaks in and he is dedicated on killing you. That's the movies. So people think like that. But that's not real life. Real life, bad guys are opportunists. Okay? They're looking for free money. And I don't care what they have. They can come in with a grenade launcher, RPG. If you start shooting at them, they will get the fuck out of your house. I don't care what they got on them. Okay? You start shooting at them, you can start shooting at them with a 22. They will run for their fucking life. That is the reality. That's real life. And so, you know, then they like had this whole thing where it's like, they're like, oh, the sound of a shotgun doesn't work in real life. Look, I understand this theory, this strategy that you don't want to make any noise if someone breaks in your house to let them know where you're located. That makes sense. I get it. But don't lie to prove your point. Okay? If that is your strategy, awesome. Go with that strategy. It actually makes sense. I get it. But don't lie and say that doesn't work in real life. Why are you saying that? You've never experienced it in real life. So how do you know if it works in real life? Let me tell you, maybe 3 times, but at least 2 times for sure, the sound of a gun saved my life. Well, once it saved my life. The other time, it just changed the outcome of what happened. Okay? And maybe even 3, but I'm not positive on that. You're saying in real life the sound of a gun doesn't work, but yet I experienced it in real life and it did. So that means that statement is false. Don't lie to prove your point. If your point is you believe it's a better strategy not to let the bad guy know that you're even in the house or where you're located, if that is your belief, awesome. You know what I mean? Like, it might be an awesome strategy, but don't start making up shit. You know, in real life, that doesn't work. They just now know where you're at. That's bullshit. I grew up in a bad neighborhood. So I grew up with guys who went the wrong way. Okay, stick-up kids. Okay, people that broke in people's houses to try to steal shit. I know them personally. I've heard their stories. I've heard them literally talking about how they were in a house and all of a sudden they heard, and they got the fuck out of there. One guy went through a closed window. I'm serious. I noticed he went through a closed window. He did a year in jail for that, a home invasion. He went through a closed window because he heard the sound of a gun. Okay? That's real life. That's real life. 99% of the time, that's what really happens. If they hear noise, they're getting the hell out of there. Because now it's not easy. That's real life. So, you know, that's it. That's it. It just bothers me when people talk about what happens in real life if you have never experienced real life, you know. And sometimes I got to wake myself up, you know, and realize that most people didn't grow up in a bad neighborhood and had these bad things happen to them, you know, and I'm the odd one. I'm the weird one, you know. And so I got to remember that, you know, people's idea of what bad guys are is shaped by movies. Even people in the gun world, you know, even so-called know-it-alls, they're shaped by the movies. And that's the other thing with know-it-alls. You know, one thing that irritates me is somebody, you know, guys that just claim that they know what they're talking about and they've never experienced any fucking thing in real life. Look, if you've read a book and you learned something cool, if you got a buddy who's a Marine or a Delta Force, I don't know, and he, you know, he told you something and you learned something cool, but that doesn't make you an expert now. You're not an expert. Don't start trying to teach people how to win a gunfight if you've never been in one. You don't really know what it's like. You know, me or anybody can sit here and tell you anything about their experiences, but that still doesn't mean you really understand and get what the hell's really happening. You know, it doesn't make you an expert. Hell, being in it doesn't make you an expert. Okay, I'm not an expert at you know, surviving robberies or whatever. I've survived them. I obviously am doing something right. That doesn't mean I'm an expert, though. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm the greatest at it. Let me survive 100 straight, then maybe I can, you know, maybe then I'm an expert. You know, I'm the greatest at avoiding, you know, but it doesn't mean that I'm the greatest at this or anything like that. However, my hands-on, my real life experience, it means something. Anyone's real life experience means something. People who've been in the military and combat veterans, their experience, it means something. Okay, even if you're just a guy like my dad, he was never in the military, but he knows more than a lot of people who even went in the military, you know, about combat, about survival, for unfortunate reasons. You know, so, you know, it irritates me when people try to act as if they're know-it-alls now because their buddy told them this or they read a book and it said that, and you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make you an expert now. You're gonna mess around and get somebody killed trying to tell them what you think they should be doing, and because now you know everything because you read a book that told you this, that. Let me tell you something. War in Vietnam and war in Afghanistan is two different types of war. Okay, different strategies for surviving in two different situations, two different, completely different setups, and even type of people that you're dealing with. Okay, so when you hear somebody, you know, who's in the military, whatever, and they're telling you, you know, a sniper telling you his way of survival, you know, in desert, long distance, wide open, is completely different. It's completely different than, you know, somebody's survival in Korea, okay, or in Vietnam in thick brush, or in Africa in thick brush. Okay, those are two different types of war. I mean, even so much as, remember the interview I did with my cousin? You know, he did 3 tours. You know, he just like he said, where he's like, he said he did Iraq, and then he was in Fallujah, okay, and he was like, Fallujah sucked. Fallujah was different than his first 2 deployments, okay? It was different war. It was different strategy. It was completely different, all right? So you don't take on like a sniper who is in a specific situation, tells you, oh, this is what I had to do this, and do that in order to survive. And now you take that to an urban setting. You take that to your, your backyard, or you take that to the corner store. You might get your head blown off. All right. Different situations call for different type of survival, okay? And so this whole thing about, you heard this from this guy and heard this from that guy, you read this book on that. I'm not saying don't read the books. I'm not saying don't get as much information as you can, okay? Because what I don't expect is for people to go out there and get into gunfights in order to have experience. It's fucking stupid, okay? However, the beef isn't with learning it. The beef is with trying to assume you're an expert at this now, and you're trying to teach other people. If you want to just kind of give your information, like, I read this, I read that, that's cool. You're spreading information. You're spreading something you read. But leave the expertise for the experts. Don't all of a sudden go around and start assuming you're an expert in gunfighting and surviving gunfights or whatever if you literally have no experience in it. That's silly. That's silly. Get all the information you can, read all the books, but don't go out there acting as if you're an expert. You know it all, and now you can teach people what to do in gunfights because now all of a sudden you're an expert because of some books you read. It sucks, but you actually need some experience. You actually have to go through that shit and know how to actually survive it in order to even go down the path of being an expert. Okay? I don't even consider myself an expert. I've survived some crazy stuff. I obviously am doing something right because I'm alive, but that doesn't mean that if it happened 100 times in a row, I would survive 100 times in a row. It doesn't mean that the next time pray to God nothing does happen, but it doesn't mean that, if something happens again, that I'm going to survive that one. Maybe my chances are a little higher because I have been through these things and I have the experience. I know a little bit what to do, okay? But that still doesn't mean that I'm I just got this puppy down perfect. You know what I mean? My hands-on means something, but it doesn't mean I'm an expert. It doesn't mean I'm the best at this. Okay? My dad knows more than I do. I can tell you that. And if I had to be in a war setting where it was like thick brush, I'd be talking to my grandpa all day. Grandpa, what do we need to do? But when it comes to, like someone breaking into your house, and I'm going to be talking to my dad instead of my grandpa now, because my dad has that experience over my grandfather. You understand what I'm saying? My grandfather has the expertise in Korea, World War II. My father has my father has the experience of defending his home, the whole 9 yards. So that's that experience. You see what I'm saying? There's, it takes certain different strategies for different situations. And surviving, a crazed lunatic shooting up a mall, or going to the corner store and some guys trying to mug you, or that's where I live. That's how I live my life, and that's what how most people live their life, and that's kind of the setting that people need to learn how to survive in. That's what they need to be understanding and reading books about. Okay, that's where it's at. And it can help watching active self-protection or whatever it is. Maybe that helps, so watch as many as you can. But we can watch as many as that guy and analyze them all just like that guy. I don't know if that guy's actually been in these situations. He always speaks about what you should and shouldn't do. And when I'm watching it, I'm usually I agree with him, but sometimes I'm like, no, that wasn't. He shouldn't have done that. And that just comes from what I've literally experienced, or my father, my cousin, they experience real life. They've been in it, and I can kind of take from them. I can take from my own experiences, and being in several bad situations and coming out alive. It helps. It helps in understanding, and hope to God that those things never happen again. Right? You've heard me say that 1,000 times. But at the same time, again, my beef is just with you're not a know-it-all because you read the books. Just spread your knowledge, though. But it's not time to become the know-it-all, experienced gunfighter, and you ain't never swatted a fly. Come on now. Whammy out.